The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please. Oh, hey, come on.
Oh, sorry.
Don't you be interrupting the bailiff. Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan J. Schlender presiding. We all rise for the Honorable Judge Schlender.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People versus Whiplash, a 2014 drama about a talented drummer vying for a spot in his school's prestigious jazz band and dealing with its exacting and cruel conductor. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Caleb Zakarin, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
You should have said Caleb Zakarin. Welcome back again.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you all for having me again. It's really great to be back on. I feel like last time I picked a bit of an easy film. I picked a film that I think is pretty well liked by a lot of people, Eyes Wide Shut. And I defended it on the basis that it's sometimes considered Kubrick's one of his worst films. And I was really trying hard to think of a film that I think is universally beloved that I just didn't love. And that movie is Whiplash. And definitely excited to present the case against Whiplash. I will say I just got away from watching it. And, you know, there is a lot of great things about this film. The editing is pretty good. You know, the music is great. But, you know, the characters themselves, I just don't think they're as interesting or as complex as people think they are. And I really think that by the end of this conversation, everyone is going to see that Whiplash really is a film that doesn't hold up with age. Sure, it was great in 2014, but so much has happened since then. And, you know, with with hindsight being 2020, I think that it's not really one of the best films.
All right, thank you. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Big Ben Haslar. Please present your opening statement.
Ooh, here comes a drum solo.
No, not today. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I believe the prosecutor is looking at this all wrong. It's not a film that doesn't hold up with age. Whiplash is a horror movie, and Fletcher is the monster. I'm not kidding. This movie can induce more panic and dread in me than any nightmare, be it Before Christmas, Alley, or on Elm Street. In fact, I almost wasn't even looking forward to defending it because I didn't want to dive into how anxiety-inducing it can be. The first time I watched it, my smartwatch noted the change in me, and it told me I was stressed out and needed to calm down. That's how powerful the emotional resonance is in this film. Friday the 13th, I can sit through with an even pulse. Not this, because there I know that the masks are rubber, but this resonates. This is real. This is scary if you've ever been there. People like the first chair drummer missing that folder and freaking the hell out foreshadow that this is part of, that he's like the monster's past victim and Neiman is the next. We see how much control Fletcher has over these players in the band. The way they all hush when he comes in and their eyes are on him like foxes in the hunt, waiting for their cages to open. I'm sure that a certain kind of person can just turn that off while watching this film. But if you are any sort of person yearning for success and just not getting it, a people pleaser or a teacher's pet, Fletcher, the monster, will take those broken ambitions and weaponize them against you because he wants to see where your limits are and discard you the moment those limits make the ground fall beneath you. In his words, there are no two words in the English language worse than good job. Not if you want to be exceptional. A message which you see memed up on a Google image search in a way that's kind of meant to be inspiring, but undercuts the discarded heaps of bloody drummers in his wake. The film starts with a slow, even tempo, easy to digest and understand, but it gets faster and more anxiety-inducing until you just can't take it anymore because the noise is just ringing in your head. Perfect opener for this film. The way it flows, lulling you into that security and then jump to terror and then back to security and then back to terror is masterclass level. And as the film draws to a close and we see the monster vanquished, the film laughs at us. We've been doing this to you the whole time. You really think he's out now? You think the monster is dead? And then the hand pops up. And at only 1 hour and 46 minutes, what an impact. Not a person on earth who has seen this hasn't had moments of it flash through their minds, like not my tempo. I know you've thought at least that. And if you've thought about it the way Charlize and Simmons wanted you to, you missed your cue. You aren't doing it good enough.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Haslar. Caleb, you may present your first exhibit.
So the first exhibit that I want to present is what's usually considered the best part of the movie, which is J.K. Simmons' performance. I'll definitely admit that J.K. Simmons does a fantastic job in this film. He's a great actor, and I think that this is a movie where he really shines. But the problem is that his character is ultimately pretty one note. There's only really one scene, and that's towards the end, where we get a more human side of him, where he appears, to be someone that, is motivated by normal human motivations. But in reality, of course, the film set him up too much to be this horrible, evil villain for us to really believe it. I found myself just not believing him at all. He seemed like this ridiculous character. And sure, if you look at it through the lens of it being a horror film, I see it as that. But there's a reason that horror films don't tend to get nominated for Oscars. It's because they tend to be a little one note, a little flat.
Sinners has got your number band.
That's true.
It's going to clean up.
I don't know. I don't know if Sinners has horror elements, but well, we don't have to get into Sinners
for another day.
Yeah,
Good idea.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Or Nightmare Alley. Or
I love the horror genre, and of course, the last film I did, Eyes Wide Shut, is in many ways a horror film. But not to bring that one up either. But I think that film has a lot more to think about, a lot more depth. In this one, I really think J.K. Simmons' character, no matter how you slice it, yeah, he yells and it's scary and it's a little frightening, and yeah, I felt myself, anxious while watching certain scenes. But at the same time, too, I never felt myself wondering what's motivating this guy. Everything about his character just wasn't very interesting to me at all. Even when you get a little bit of insight into, his thought patterns, where he talks about, you get that emotional moment where he talks about a former student of his, Sean Casey, who he claims was hit by a car or died in a car accident. In fact, died of suicide. First of all, that scene makes no sense. Why would he blatantly lie about something that could easily be researched? One would think that the first
trying to
chair,
escape the guilt in his own head.
of course, but one would think that if he's telling a group of 30 people that the first chair of the Jazz at Lincoln Center was killed in a car accident, that if people saw the obituary and saw the discrepancy, that they would wonder why he was even motivated to lie about it. Yeah, sure, he's clearly a deeply traumatized or tormented person in some way, but we never really get the exposure to why he is doing what he's doing. So I just found that, his character, despite the fact that the performance was good, I don't think that the writer really did him much service. I think even upon my second watch of it, I just really found myself getting tired of the same old thing. It felt like scene after scene that it was just the same rehashing. Sure, it intensified slightly, but we never really got to, really see but what's going on in his head. It just felt like, maybe that wasn't the point exactly, but for a movie with really two main characters, one would hope that they would at least explore what he's all about.
All right, defense, I'd like you to respond. He went right for J.K. Simmons. What do you got?
Well, of course, Simmons is the star of this show. He deservedly won Best Supporting Actor, and had the Reelsies been around at that time, he would have won that one as well.
I think
there's
they
not a-
were. This is our 40th one or something.
Well, that was an off year. We took that one off. Anyway, there's not a second of this film where J.K. Simmons isn't acting at his full capacity. In just a few lines, he conveys everything I need to know about his character, being playful in his words, yet domineering in his tone. He makes me want his approval, yet he's a total ass. His ear for perfection allows him to get away with it. So many fantastic moments from him, like, well, you're the first chair. Let's see if it's because you're cute. Whop, whop, whop. Yep, that's why. He's playful in the way that he does it. But how many self-important asses like this have we known in our own lives where their skill justifies this behavior? Other moments like either you're out of tune and sabotaging the band, or you don't know, which is even worse, as a great scene. He's domineering, but in that moment, not wrong. Someone isn't as laser focused on perfection like he is. And that scene of tune hunting is just how brilliant, how scared this guy is that he kicks him out, who wasn't out of tune, but the guy didn't know it. So, that level of imperfection wasn't enough for him. And as great and terrifying as this drill sergeant in charge of a jazz band is, he does have that nurturing tone that throws us off kilter. It isn't just one note. I very much disagree with that. And he can switch it on and off in an instant. One moment he's on your side, and then the next moment he's yelling at you in your face for dragging. And he has that moment with that girl in the hallway. It's like, will you be in my band? And then kind of, switches it into drill sergeant mode the second they go backstage. The reason being, he's like searching for that perfection. He understands Neiman's imposter syndrome, and he weaponizes it against him. And it's not just him. He's always looking for the personal details of all of his players to use against them, to anger them against themselves, to make them play better. He rightfully calls out how Neiman just sort of slid in, showing that he knows just how much he's posing, incentivizing him so much so that getting on a bus with a flat tire is now a matter of life and death, because he cannot lose that part. He just can't. He has to be the best drummer ever. And then later in the film, we think we've vanquished him and he's out of Neiman's life. Coming across Fletcher, he does show that human side that you alluded to, admitting how working with him wasn't all peaches and cream, but how his love for jazz necessitated pushing people to that brink. Because in a relaxed atmosphere, we don't get Charlie Parker's, only to find that this too was a trap in his predatory nature. The acting here is of the highest caliber, and when you factor in that this is the same guy that plays the peanut M&M, it's just mind-blowing.
All right, Caleb, we'll kick it back to you if you'd like to redirect or move on to another exhibit.
He's the peanut?
He's the peanut M&M.
Is it okay? Should I respond to that, or should I just
please.
move to something else?
If you like to, it's your call, man.
What one aspect of his character that I find bizarre, he is this drill sergeant character, and I would certainly believe it much more if let's say this was football, a film about football, someone trying to be the next Tom Brady, like his brother in the film. But at the same time, too, this is jazz. And I just don't know if this film does a good job of capturing jazz. Granted, I've never played in a jazz band before, so I can't comment on personal experience. But I have a number of friends that have played in jazz bands before. And while, of course, it's extremely intense and can be demanding and grueling, the film is, monomaniacally focused on the individual relationship between this drill sergeant character and the drummers. All the other characters are completely sidelined. And obviously for the purposes of this film, it's trying to highlight maybe in some part the sort of solipsistic individual drive of the main character. But at the same time too, I really just found that the film uses jazz more as a vehicle than actually explores it. It easily could have been something else. And I felt in a way that maybe the reason why it used jazz as the vehicle is because jazz music is great. I found myself enjoying listening to the jazz as the music went along. But, I really feel that sometimes it's a bit of a cheap move. There's so many movies that will use music. You use a great song in a scene, but when you remove the music, then what do you really have left? I think that if it wasn't for the jazz, the film would be a lot more boring, though it really felt like it didn't explore what jazz was about at all.
Well, fortunately, it does have jazz in it. And I think the reason jazz was picked as the vehicle is this was based on Chazelle's own experience. He was trying to get La La Land off of the ground, and he couldn't. So he wrote Whiplash, the short film, as sort of a stopgap, it was successful, but it was very much based on his own experience as a drummer in this very competitive world. So jazz is a vehicle that he could, identify and write very honestly. So yeah, I agree. It could have been any vehicle. I actually referenced Bobby Knight in my closing statement, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, no, it happens to be jazz in this case, and I think it works.
No, I know that Chazelle based it on his own personal experience, but of course, I like any film, there's going to be lots of exaggerations in it. But there wasn't anything that I really took away or learned about jazz. Not necessarily, it's not necessarily the point of a film to teach me about what the subject is about, but I certainly learned a lot more about baseball from Moneyball than I did jazz from this film. So, while of course it might have been based on that, I just, I felt it lacking in the exploration. Having talked to some friends of mine, like while preparing for this, about their experience with jazz, many of them liked the film, but agreed that the jazz component of it was, pretty pointless. It was just
maybe you're saving that bullet for La La Land. Ryan Gosling tells you more about jazz in that film. He probably didn't want it.
All right. If you'd like to move on to your next exhibit.
Sure. Yeah. So the next thing that I want to talk about is a scene that just bothers me so much. And part of the reason it bothers me is because it just doesn't, it's hard to understand what the motivations are of the other characters. Like this film, part of it, I could never make heads or tails of whether or not this is a film that is, embracing surrealism or realism or what it is. And the part of it that I really just found absolutely perplexing is the car crash scene. So, when he's going to a tournament, he's driving, he goes back to get his sticks, he's driving his car and he gets hit by a car and oh my God, I'm blanking on Miles Teller's character's name. Would you mind just
Andrew Neiman.
Miles
Neiman,
Teller.
Yeah, Andrew Neiman, right? Yeah. And Andrew Neiman, Miles Teller. I just think of him as Miles Teller at this point. But Andrew Neiman is driving, he goes to get back his sticks. He's driving, gets hit by a car, and of course first of all, the the type of getting hit by a vehicle of that size, the angle that he was hit, there's no way at all that he would have been able to get up out of it. That's fine. I'll suspend disbelief. But then he runs back and he's covered in blood, and no one around seems at all concerned. Everyone acts like this is a completely normal thing to happen. And I just found this scene, utterly bizarre. Why does the film at some points embrace realism, and then at various points in time, people seem to just put up with things that I don't think any single person would have put up with? Not just this scene, but afterwards too. Like it doesn't make sense to me, the motivation of the character at all, or the motivations of the side characters. All the side characters in the film just feel like complete window dressing. At any given moment, it's impossible for me to not imagine someone stepping in or quitting or saying what the hell is going on. It just the extent or the degree to which everyone else is window dressing is just utterly bizarre to me. And I just found myself continuously getting taken out of the film. And in this scene, it was the most that I ever felt taken out of the film. I just couldn't understand why nobody was intervening.
Big Ben, why wasn't anyone doing anything?
Well, clearly, Caleb over here has not been obsessed with anything to the level. You're not doing it right. You're succumbing to mediocrity, because if you were that obsessed, and I kid, of course, I don't know you, but
you might, maybe,
yeah. But the point is, he's like so focused on being like the best drummer that, like, once something gets in his way, if you've ever been in that panic state, you're not thinking clearly. So you're just like thinking, okay, I got to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like, even like renting a car isn't like the most wise thing he could have done. He probably could have taken an Uber. He might have been faster running there or something like that. He was only 9 minutes away, but he's not thinking clearly. His only goal is to get there to that recital, because if he doesn't, he is going to lose that part, and he can't do that, because if he does that, it's over for him, especially given how much he's like sort of bragged to other people in his life about how much he's made it, and how much this is going to be a part of his.
Let me just clarify. I understand his motivations in that scene. It's really everyone else. Like, you don't think that the second chair would have jumped in and said, "Hey, this guy's covered in blood."
Well, I think people do like sort of look at him like, okay, like I don't know, like what I would do in that situation. If I hit someone in a car and that person just like takes off and says, "Bill me," and runs, like I don't know if I'm going to chase them, down, down the street. And if I'm in the jazz band and like someone like comes in with blood on their shirt, I'd be like, "Hey man, what's going on?" But I don't know that, I'd be looking to the conductor to say, "Stop the recital." I wouldn't be doing that myself as another player. And J.K. Simmons' character obviously wants to do that. He wants to push Miles Teller to see just how far he'll go. So, that's not something that this character is going to do, but something a normal conductor might.
Yeah, I just found it. I found it perplexing, and I think that this scene, the way that and who knows, maybe maybe it's a facet of the fact that it started as a short film. It's a low budget, relatively speaking, low budget film. So maybe they couldn't work in any other characters. But I just found it strange the lack of secondary or tertiary characters in the film. It really just felt like bizarre window dressing. The monomaniacal focus on the drummers just didn't make quite that much sense to me, especially given the fact that he's not even a drummer, he's a pianist. Of course, the drummer is obviously very important, for any jazz band. But still, it just seems strange. If J.K. Simmons' character was directing his anger and vitriol towards more characters, I think it would make a bit of sense.
He does though. But... like he's like, there's not a butter wrapper down there, like he is tormenting all in the like. See your first chair. Let's see if it's your cute. He does torment all the other members in the band. We're just focused on Teller because he's the main character, but we do see that it is happening to everyone else around him. And there are other characters that are interesting. Melissa Benoist and his father, can see this thing happening in him, but they're there to stop him. So Teller himself, or Andrew Neiman himself, removes these people from his life because it exemplifies just how laser focused he is on his goal, that like the people who are around, he will actively not listen to.
Come on, the dad is mad about you.
Oh, boo. I'll hold you in contempt, Mr. Maynard. Caleb, any other points you'd like to bring up?
How many points do I have left? Is it one more? Or...
You can. As many
we have limits. Ooh, I like
limits.
that.
I think really the last point, or the most crucial point that I want to make is, look, I'm not really a fan of movies that are, overly moralistic or have a message. There's tons of movies that I love that don't have a message at all. I mean, Con Air is one of my favorite movies of all time. So
here we go.
But
done that one.
And I would love to, it's a great film. But the difference is this movie sets out to be great, right? This movie, the goals of it are much higher than a Con Air, than other films that are bad. So I'm judging it based on what I take to be the goals of this film. And I find the ending of the movie, of course it's an exciting scene. He's drumming, his hands are bleeding. It's, it's like he's a marathoner on, the 25th mile, and he just has to push through with a broken ankle. Though of course he's only been playing for like 7 minutes, and his hands seem to be gushing with blood. But the movie ends, and the movie starts to end, and he's drumming, despite J.K. Simmons's anger and frustration, and then they start to see each other, they start to understand each other as he plays, as he pushes forward. And in the final shot of the movie, they make eye contact, this sort of knowing glance, like, finally, like, yes, it was all worth it. All of this abuse, all of this, everything that I put you through, it did. You pushed through and you overcame and you became a great drummer. End film. And I just took the message to be of the film that the abuse was necessary, that the abuse was worth it in a way. And, look, certainly people, do great things by overcoming abuse, but I just found J.K. Simmons' character to be so stunningly abusive that the thought that he would have even made it as a teacher for as long as he did, the fact that it took that long to even get him out of there is just absurd. And especially for someone that cares so much about his reputation, that he's literally abusing people in practice at the off chance that they don't play well at some random college recital, that he then goes to this great festival and he invites someone who he then essentially sets up to fail. obviously, sure, it might have been under the idea that it would make Andrew look stupid, but of course it would make him as the conductor look stupid as well too. Like, he's the one who switched him in. It just doesn't. I don't understand his motivations. Like, why is he so maniacally, sadistically focused on Andrew? It just was perplexing to me. So the whole ending, yeah, like everyone loves the ending. It's so exciting. It's so fun. But when you really step back and analyze it, like, what's it really about?
Tenure.
What are we doing here?
Way of saying, what are we doing here?
This is why I love this ending, because a lot of people have read the ending the way you have. I read it in an entirely different way my first watch, which tells me like it's kind of a good level of ambiguity going there. Throughout the film, we hear Neiman talk about how he idolizes these people who have drove themselves into early graves, but in his mind, mastered jazz. And in this human scene, Fletcher talks about how he never had a Charlie Parker to mention, even though we've heard glimpses of this student in the past that was very close, but eventually broke to the point of suicide. Something he actually does show some semblance of remorse about earlier in the film, only to not have fully learned that lesson as to what his method does to people. So when I first watched this film, I took the ending in one way and was sort of surprised that other people had that different approach. Some people think that Neiman gets what he wants in that smile from Fletcher and gives that Fletcher gives him at the end, that it's sort of a happy ending, that he achieved Charlie Parker status. And I think they're right. I think he has achieved Charlie Parker's status, but that's not necessarily a good thing, because remember, Charlie Parker died young. So while some focus on the look Fletcher gives him, I noticed the look that his father gives him from backstage, knowing that his son is going to break in the same way that his idols have. We've seen this before in the film, where Fletcher seems to give Neiman exactly what he wants, and we see that ending scene like we see in that ending scene, only to have him rip it away from him later and push him even harder in the next harsh cycle. We've seen it 3 or 4 times already. It's going to continue after the credits roll. And I think that smile is some sort of acknowledgement from both of these people, abuser and abused, that they've given in to this self-destructive relationship. They now need each other, which is something we see in real abusive relationships, how hard it is to tear the abused person away. That need for that abuser's approval is nested in their brains, and they too often find themselves back in that predator's grasp. And those few smiles are very rewarding to them. This ending, where the sentence is started, but the blank is then left for you to fill, shows just how well the film set up the problem.
It's funny in a way. The thing that wins J.K. Simmons over, the thing that wins him over is him going out and just hitting the drums as hard as possible. and I just found in a way that, like, of course, Caravan's a great song, but the whole ending, it's exciting in many ways, and the edit, I do have to give props to the editor. The editor did do a pretty wonderful job in that scene, but I just didn't find the music itself in the very end that great. I actually find I find that once he starts going his drum solo, that if I was at a concert and someone was doing that, I don't think I would find it very impressed. So
I hate the drum solo at any rock concert I'm in. I'm like, why? You're not a guitarist, man.
Yeah, look, if it was a movie about a saxophonist or about a pianist, and he went for a crazy solo like that, then I would have enjoyed it more. But I just didn't find it that impressive.
Clearly, 2 people who have never seen Neil Peart in concert.
That's true.
Question for the bench: did Miles Teller actually play the drums for this, or was they switched?
He did. Yes, he learned how to play the drums when he was 15. So, like, while he's not an expert level, like that is being portrayed in the film, they do have a stand-in certain scenes. He's playing some of it. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I was just curious. I don't think it affects the case one way or the other. But I'm the judge. I get to do those kind of things. All right, Caleb, are you going to rest there, or are there any other points you'd like to bring up?
I'll rest there for now.
Very good. The prosecution has rested. The defense can now present any exhibits they have in defense of the film. Big Ben, take it away.
Being in defense.
I think I've addressed most of what I wanted to. So I really just have one last exhibit I kind of want to hit home a little bit. How Miles Teller as Neiman does a great job showing that transformation, going from mild-mannered to obsession in a V-neck, starting off insecure, but that slightest bit of intention plants the seed of confidence. He's now endowed so much that he feels he can go ask Supergirl out. He gets first chair, and all of a sudden he's hot stuff when boasting to his family. But all of these keys get taken away from him as Fletcher rubs off on him, which we see later in that date when he breaks up, where he can't relate to someone without that purpose that Jazz now has to him. So this portrayal is very honest in that way, where there's positive and negative consequences for this search for perfection. He comes from a dinner table where everyone sort of boasts their accomplishments, but they're all rather ordinary. But his family doesn't seem to understand the importance or difficulty of Jazz. They idolize successful people that retired with compliments from their school boards. Neiman idolizes someone whose name is on everyone's lips, who kind of left a stamp in history, even though their careers drove them to early graves, which is something I think people misread about that ending, which I elucidated. Teller comes off as relatable, identifiable, and absolutely panic-inducingly obsessed. So people focus on J.K. Simmons, and rightfully so, but don't discount this performance. It is good as well. And on that, the defense will rest.
All right. Caleb, would you like to respond to anything Ben just said there about Miles?
I agree that Teller gives a great performance, and just like Simmons, I think that he does a great job with the material that he was given. You don't always have to understand why every character makes the choices that they make in a film or what their motivations are, but I just found choice after choice after choice by Teller, and just pretty perplexing. In particular, I just found him, and I know he's 19, but I just found him incredibly naive. The scene where he goes, after having essentially, been the person that was the cause of Fletcher's firing. He goes and he has this sit down with him. I just found that completely unbelievable, that scene, and the whole interaction, the kind of the confidence that he goes, this person that was his abuser, that he literally drove him to tackle publicly on a stage, to then go and have this sort of sit down conversation, and then believe him when he tells him, hey, I'm going to let you go and be my drummer for this big show. I just found his naivete so perplexing.
Question from this bench over here. Have you ever known
not
someone?
on the bench.
I'm on
What's
a
he
bench.
sitting
over here.
on?
I brought it in. Have you ever known someone in an abusive relationship, like even a romantic one? Like I often have seen people where it's just like, how in the world are you back with this person? This person threw a dinner plate at your head. Why do you need their approval so much?
No, it's certainly true, and that is an aspect of the film. It explores abuse, and I think what's interesting about this film, of course, is that it came out in 2014, and I was getting this, and it's not something that I thought about at the time, but I was getting this Harvey Weinstein feeling about J.K. Simmons' character. That Harvey Weinstein, much like J.K. Simmons, was this abusive figure who seems to be the person that is the one person that can give you access to this world of greatness. Without him, without their approval, then of course you can't access it. So in a way, if that was what part of what the film was about, then I do think it's interesting. Though I just don't really think that's what it is. I find Miles Teller's character, yes, he's caught in this cycle of abuse, but I just found it not exactly logical. And of course it doesn't have to be logical, but sometimes when we have a character that is especially the main character that I want to root for on some level, I want to understand why they're making the decisions that they do. And I just found his decisions perplexing. And it's like, look, maybe I have enough defense mechanisms in place where I feel like if someone was going to slap me in front of my essentially my coworkers, that I would have been out of there and pressing charges the next day. But I just I understand that the film deals with that, but I just didn't find it, his motivations, the character itself, well explained. I to be honest, I found it slightly pathetic, and I felt bad for him, but in general, I just couldn't relate.
This is why this is a horror movie. How many horror movies have you watched where you saw the protagonist do something incredibly stupid? You're like, don't go out there, the monster's out there, but they do it. That's why this is a great horror movie.
Strategic framing from Big Ben.
All right, I like it, but both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Caleb, you may begin.
Look, there's a lot of things that are enjoyable about this film. This isn't a film that, you watch and, you immediately want to turn off. It's not that kind of bad film. But what I do believe is that it is an extremely overrated film. People talk about it like it's this incredible, brilliant, great film. But when you really start to pick it apart, when you look at the characters and how they're actually written, not how they're performed, you see that their motivations don't really make that much sense. Sure, it's a movie about obsession, but I don't find that it really digs into obsession all too much. It has that line that is repeated over and over again that, you got to get a cymbal thrown at your head in order to be great. But they never really investigated that much further. Really my main issue with the film, the reason why I just don't find it that compelling is I just don't feel like J.K. Simmons as a villain is really that dynamic. He's immediately established as this evil, malevolent force, and we only really see a slightly human side of him, or a side that feels more human towards the very end. And by that time, nobody believes that he's actually a person with any depth. I really do wish that more, so that we were led into a more gray world, a little more, a world that wasn't so stark, so much setting up this character, this villain. I found in a way that it just caused the whole film to feel sort of predictable. Yeah, we knew that these characters would be on some sort of crash course, and while that's a typical, while that is a typical pattern for a film, I found myself just feeling kind of bored by it, feeling not connected to the character's journey, because I just felt that I wouldn't in a million years ever be tricked by a character, by a villain like this. So sure, it's a horror film where people make bad decisions and bad choices, but in a drama, in a film that is Oscar bait, I want to feel like like it's not just pure good guy going up against some evil force. I want to feel like I'm existing in a world of grays.
All right, thank you. Mr. Big Ben, please present your closing argument.
Terrence Fletcher sees himself as Bobby Knight in a Greg Marshall era. Bobby Knight flew into rageful tantrums and choked his players when they simply weren't playing up to his expectations, and hurled chairs at referees. He was even arrested for his volatility. Bobby Knight also won 902 NCAA games because he pushed his players that far. He won an Olympic gold medal. He's the coach of the Charlie Parker era of jazz that Fletcher wants to be. But instead, he follows the path of Greg Marshall on the same path to success, using the same volatile methods, but in a much later era where schools face lawsuits and institutional risk for causing trauma, and the resulting shift of the cultural #MeToo standards. And as a result, in his mind, jazz is dying. We'll never get a Charlie Parker because we're in a good enough society. The film doesn't answer whether Knight or Marshall are justified in their methods. We know in their own minds that they were. That job is now put on us to judge. Can people achieve that perfection in a non-abusive, softer framework? I don't know. I'm not a sports guy or a jazz guy, nor have I achieved the pinnacle of success in any of my endeavors. I'm just a nerd who thought the Caravan song sounded a lot like the Cowboy Bebop theme. So I would say that abuse is too far, that the success isn't worth the emotional price of lifelong emotional turmoil, that J.K. Simmons plays a monster here and an absolute abuser. Others would disagree, and that's why this film is successful. It poses the question and leaves us to find those answers. Did Fletcher create greatness? Did Andrew succeed in spite of these methods? Or is it all just a continual cycle of one needing the other? The ambiguity is the point here. And we can apply it to our own lives, to situations like Bobby Knight and Greg Marshall, or to domestic abusive relationships. And in that measure, this film deserves to be found not guilty.
All right, thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. Not Quite My Tempo, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way? You know what I call a drummer who breaks up with his girlfriend? Homeless.
Bailiff, savage, absolutely savage.
All right, guys. We really drummed up an interesting case here, huh? All right. Ryan, what are you thinking?
I think this is Damien Chazelle's second best film after First Man, but this was the first one of his that I actually saw. I saw it before, like shortly before I saw La La Land, which I'm not crazy about. And I think that it truly deserves every Academy Award that it won for best editing, best, I believe it was sound mixing or sound design.
Okay, those are
and
fair.
for J.K. Simmons, of course. And the main reason that I kind of see myself in this film is that I'm a survivor of abuse, so I know what that feels like to want to impress somebody that will never be impressed by you because secretly they hate you and they let you know on subconscious levels. And I think that J.K. Simmons taps into something here. And I love that Ben pointed out that it's a horror movie and also pointed out my standard checking my Fitbit to see exactly how a movie's affecting me. I totally agree. This is 100% a horror film. What really drives me crazy though is how badly he treats Melissa Benoist, because that's fucking Supergirl. You do not disrespect her. It's not right.
Mhm.
But I honestly think this is a gentleman's 8.
High praise indeed.
Now, Schlenza, what do you feel? Do you think it's a horror movie, or do you think this is just clever framing by Ben?
No, it's not. I disagree. I don't think this is a horror movie. And I first of all, so I want to talk about what I liked about in Caleb's case. I think he did a good job framing two things, because he had a very fine line to walk about the performances, which were amazing, and then the characters, right? Obviously, if this character of J.K. Simmons or Miles Teller was in less capable hands, the whole movie sinks. So by focusing on the way they're written, their motivations, and what we actually see them do vis-a-vis versus how it's actually performed, very, very wise there, because there are a lot of deficiencies in this movie that he was able to bring up, quite frankly. And coming into the movie with a little bit of my own baggage, because we did La La Land on the show, and so just knowing kind of how the director thinks, like I don't think the director sees J.K. Simmons as a monster or a bad guy, to be honest with you. Now, if people want to walk away with that conclusion, I guess that's up to them. But it's hard looking at the oeuvre of Chazelle there and thinking that he doesn't believe this is true. Like, this is how you get greatness. You need to give up large chunks of yourself. Like we saw that in La La Land. I mean, First Man is about getting ready to walk on the moon. That's about the physicality that Neil Armstrong had to go through, a lot of it, So I do believe he believes this, and does that mean he's saying it's right or that it's true? You know what I mean? Like, is it good or is it true? So I think there are some interesting questions it comes up with, but I would say this is not a horror movie. I would say, like, this is something that he believes. Maybe he's cranking it up a lot for this, but I would say it's directionally where he's based on all of his other stuff. This isn't a horror movie. This is something that's a little more real, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I picked up the stress of it, but I definitely didn't experience panic attacks watching this or anything. Mainly because, I mean, I knew that this would not be all of Miles's career, right? Even if he doesn't please J.K. Simmons, he can still go on to have a plenty strong career. He doesn't. It doesn't all hinge on him. What else did I like about the cases? I think that the point that the prosecution made, that this could be about anything, it doesn't really teach you much about jazz, I think is the point, knowing the director. He thinks this could be applied to almost anything. If you've got someone just riding your ass and kind of never encouraging you, you're going to get better. We don't know if that's true.
Well, if you have the capability, it's almost like borderlines like the No True Scotsman kind of thing. Like, oh, well, if he didn't make it, he was never going to make it. It's like, well, we don't know that. But if it's survivor bias, right? Like, so everyone who makes it through these grueling methods, that's ergo makes these grueling methods viable, and that I obviously I don't think that's the case in real life. So yes, this could have been applied to anything. Chazelle just seems to freaking love jazz to an annoying degree.
Yes, but I do think he kind of puts himself in a bad corner by picking a band leader, because bands are made up of lots of people. So J.K. Simmons would have to be riding nearly everyone just as hard. We only see the snapshot kind of through Miles's eyes, but you'd have to assume he's screaming at everyone. I just don't know that this actually, I don't agree it's going to get better work out of anybody. There's no way after drumming as hard as you could for like 3 hours, you're now ready to play well in a rehearsal. Like you have to rest, and getting hit by a car, forget about it. There's no way he's drumming well after that.
I do like that Caleb brought that up. Like no one's saying anything.
Yeah.
It's like if I was the second chair drummer, I would be like, oh, now's my chance. I'd be like, coach, he's covered in blood and with a broken wrist. I can play,
Right. But I mean, the director would argue the fact that they don't say anything is why they don't end up being great.
You know what? You're absolutely right. That's exactly right.
That is
Good
what they
point,
would think.
Maynard.
So where I
Right.
come is
Right.
I agree with Caleb. I don't like the messaging of this film. I don't think that this is the way to get great work at everybody. We don't know what kind of coach Bobby Knight would have been if he didn't choke people and throw things at them. I'd imagine, again, you'd play better without being choked, I'd think. But who knows? But do I need to agree with the message of the film for that to make it good?
But is that the message, though? Or is that your interpretation of the message?
I think it's the message based on the guy's oeuvre as well. Yeah. But my point is, I think it doesn't matter whether I agree with the message. I think what's important is, was the message conveyed adequately and clearly? And to me, it was that a cruel teacher will bring better work out of you. I don't agree with it, but I definitely get this director's perspective on the issue. Like his point gets across very successfully.
Yeah, and that's something that
But obviously Ryan disagrees with that. That's not what he thinks the movie's about.
I think even the most charitable you can be is that he's presenting it as true, and then whether or not you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, that's a different argument.
Yes,
so he's just saying like this is just how the world works.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, well, good. So we all agree.
Mm-hmm.
But
man,
the
performances are quite wonderful.
Exactly. That's what I was going to dive right into.
Are good, even if the characters are more archetypes, which I think they are. They don't, they're basically teacher and student. This is a world that's meant to be black and white because the director's trying to convey a message to you that I think he thinks is very simple, very black and white.
And he's literally wearing a black shirt in every single scene.
I mean,
and then the other guy's in white. Ryan's clinched this. All right, let's start locking this in. Ryan, what have you got for us?
Obviously, after everything that I've said, verbally filleting this film, I'm going to give it a pass. So it's going to get a not guilty from me.
Ooh, filleting it. Delicious. I hope we fry it after. Schlenzo, what have you got?
Space Camp.
Yes!
All right. I really liked Caleb's arguments. I really did because I do agree with a lot of them, but even he had to concede the performances. And Big Ben was right, too. As much as everyone's talking about Simmons, I was very impressed with Miles Teller. And having seen him in that dreadful Fantastic Four movie, knowing that he's actually capable of being an amazing
that
actor.
was the good Fantastic Four movie.
No, but but he wasn't good.
That
I don't think they've made a good one.
They will one day.
There's one in the 90s, I think. Yeah,
more time. So while I'm with Caleb in spirit because I also don't like overly moralistic or didactic movies, but I can't sit here and honestly say that wasn't the intention of the movie, though. And I truly believe it was. And I think Ben did enough to shore up those flanks. So, Maynard, I'm going to make it very easy on you and not swerve and say Space Camp. Not guilty.
Okay. Well, so it doesn't matter. We already got our not guilty.
It does matter, Maynard.
That's true. I thought
just drive the knife. It's fine.
Well, I don't know if I buy the horror framing, and I really do disagree with the messaging. And so maybe I do kind of want to put something, in the ledger to go, I really disagree with everything this director thinks, but he certainly does convey it very clearly. I guess I could say the same about Birth of a Nation. But he does get his message across. But I don't want to even make it unanimous. Ben loves this one, so I don't want to make it that unanimous. So I'll put in a guilty, but it won't matter. We'll go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
All right. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of The People versus Whiplash, we find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie. 10-minute drum solo.
The verdict is
That's
so
not what drums
rendered.
sound like.
Well, no, you were doing a drum solo. I was doing a... I don't know what that instrument is.
You mean a trumpet?
No, not good enough to be a trumpet, I'm afraid. Maybe a
Oboe.
flute or
It was more of a kazoo, yeah.
Order in my remarkably silly court. The verdict is so rendered. Whiplash is free to go. And be sure to stick around for Jazz on Reels. We got Big Ben on bass, Maynard on tenor. Me and Ryan will jump right in there. Court is adjourned.
This is the mumbly mumberson of Earth 2, unburdened by any continuity issues that have plagued my Earth 1 counterpoint. Who might be dead? Question mark. I don't remember, but I'm reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. Caleb Zakarin, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Yeah. I will say this is about the outcome that I expected. I knew going into it that I was going to be tough to argue against the film. Rewatching it, I was impressed with many aspects of the film. I think the editing is great. I think that the performances are great. What I will say is everything that Damien Chazelle was responsible for, I just didn't exactly love. And I don't know what it is. There are certain directors that their films just rub me the wrong way, and it just makes it challenging for me to watch it. I think I could have picked most Chazelle films. He does have one, maybe 1.5 good films. And, if you add in the good parts of this film, maybe he's got 2 good films. But, I think that this film, for whatever reason, its popularity, the absolute heaping of praise that people have put on it, I do think that while it is, maybe a decent, okay film, it is an overrated film. And if we're arguing about whether or not it was an overrated film, then I think I would have won.
Hear, hear.
Thank you. It's a good thing that's not what this podcast is about. And here comes Ben Haslar, who clearly doesn't want to be a member of the Four Timers Club on One Track Mind. Excuse me, can we get a word on how you feel about the jury's verdict?
Was that Earth 2 Ben Haslar or this one?
Oh!
Smart ass.
Because I want to skip 4 and go straight to 6 on track mine. No, I appreciate Caleb Zakarin's point. He did make me think a lot, which was good. I appreciate that he was willing to take on the hard mode after taking on the easy mode last time. So I think it was a really good discussion. He was I think he did point out some things that made me kind of, how am I going to rebut that? So, even films like this that are just like so renowned to be excellent, there's a lot that we can dive into. So I would appreciate the opposing counsel for bringing it to us.
Thank you very much. He said as a blanket statement that in no way implies that I like either of you. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis. I'm off to Earth 3 where they have better lobster.
No, they can't have better. Really?
Well, they're smarter.
They're the lobsters on back.
And we didn't talk about it. Well, what do you think of the hue, the color grading of the film? I don't know. I was a little iffy on it.
Is it like what kind of like stage lighty?
Yeah, I don't know. It had this like, some films, they whatever reason that when they do the color grading or they it's all yellow or it's all green, and I don't know. It's something about it was bugging me.
Oh, I wasn't really thinking about that. Yeah, I did think it was like sort of stage lighty, but I can't really think of like the other scenes, like when he was just like sort of in the back rooms practicing. But yeah, I do notice that sort of thing in a lot of films. Like The Ring is like all green. The Lord of the Rings, like he kind of made like Lothlorien all blue. I don't know why they color
sequels.
correct. Yeah, the Matrix sequels, they got that green tint. I wish they wouldn't do that as much as they do.
The best tint in a movie, Minority Report being all blue.
Mm.
Hey, Hey, I'm just throwing it out there.
Hey, you sure are.
I do like that.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Bobby Knight strangled me to learn that one.
That guy. But anyway, interesting case. Now, Caleb Zakarin, welcome back again. Now, what's been keeping you busy since the last time you were here? What are you usually doing?
So what I usually do is I sit on my computer and I do podcasts, whether that's talking on them, interviewing people. I'm normally not the guest, so it's always fun and a little strange and unusual, and I get to kind of feel the the little anxiety that I normally subject people to. But in addition to hosting for the Princeton University Press Ideas podcast, I work on a bunch of different podcasts, mostly for academics. Manage about 300 podcasts with hosts in over 40 countries. And yeah, we really focus on interviewing authors about books on all sorts of topics. We really focus on university press and academic books, the types of topics that you might not normally hear on other podcasts. We get all sorts of interesting guests. So, for anyone who has any sort of nerdy interests, whether it's in economics or history or religious studies or science and technology, we have basically probably the podcast for you, and you'll find some really interesting interviews at newbooksnetwork.com.
Microbiomes, I should say.
We got that.
Yeah,
I love everything you guys do over there, Caleb. As a matter of fact, that's how we find a lot of guests for our show. It's like I'll just scroll through, like,
amazing.
We need someone who understands like blank, and then I'll just find in the book.
Caleb, like, I need an Egyptologist to talk some mummy. Who do you got?
The funny thing is, I've literally interviewed 2 Egyptologists.
All right.
So I can easily send you their names. John and Colleen Darnell.
Because I've reached out to so many Egyptologists, they don't get back to us.
Hey, they're busy sarcophagi.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So, Caleb, I gotta say, I think one of the best interviews you've done recently is when you interviewed. I'm gonna butcher his name. It's like Visser, his book about panetry, the cultural history of know-it-allism.
Oh yeah.
And when I saw that come up on my feed, I was like, oh no, are they going to talk about me? And then that's like the first thing you say in the interview. It's like, oh no, I wonder if that applies to me.
Oh, it certainly applies to me.
Dude, it cracked me up, man.
Yeah,
but no, that was a great one.
Visser is great, and that's a fun book. And I definitely there are all sorts of very interesting people that we get to have on. I know that you've had Jeremy Black on a million times, and we've had him on. You got to be 50 times at this point.
One for every book.
Yeah, if only. That would fill them all up. Awesome. So everybody check out the New Books Network. Where's the best place to check it out?
Yeah, you can just go to newbooksnetwork.com, or if you just search new book, if you basically search like new books in and then like any subject, you'll find us. So we publish about 10 episodes a day across the entire network. It's a kind of it's a non-standard podcast where the guests, the hosts are constantly changing, but most of the hosts are postdocs, grad students, or lawyers, or people in tech, or retirees that just have some kind of deep nerdy interests that they want to just talk to scholars about. So yeah, newbooksnetwork.com is probably the best place to go.
Awesome. We'll get Ben on there for some sake talk. He's writing a book, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So, Caleb, what is a movie you think people should see?
So I have 2 recommendations. One of them is a film that's in one of my favorite genres of film, which is making of documentaries. And I recently saw Megadoc, which is the making of Megalopolis, the according to him, the magnum opus of Francis Ford Coppola. If people aren't familiar with Megalopolis, they can, or if they're not familiar with it, just go ahead and skip Megalopolis and go right to Megadoc. Megadoc is this fantastic film. It's really about Francis Ford Coppola and the type of filmmaker he is. And I think what you see with Coppola, and look, maybe there's some selectivity there. Coppola is not the type of filmmaker that directs his crew or works with them like Terrence Fletcher. He's a nice guy who wants to have fun, and he lets people be creative. He's open-minded. He's not screaming or shouting, though he does do some really funny pranks of John Voight in the film. So I really recommend that film. And then the other film that I wanted to recommend, just because I was absolutely blown away by it, is the film Caught by the Tides, which is made by Jia Zhangqi. It's a 2024 Chinese film. It was filmed over 22 years. It's kind of like the Chinese Boyhood, but instead of being about a boy, it's about an entire country, and it's just a beautiful film. It's more on the art film side, but if anyone wants to see a great film from China, that's the one that I'd go for.
And to go back to Megadoc for a second, we actually get to see Shia LaBeouf become a villain in real time.
Yes. If you're trying to understand why Shia is doing what he's doing now, then you'll see.
Go to Criterion Channel right now and watch Megadoc. It is amazing how little filter that man has, and how he's only gotten worse with age. And I think he even shaved off his eyebrows, which is really off-putting. It's like Robert Blake in Lost Highway. It's really fucked up. But Megadoc is tremendous. Yeah,
he's become a villain unto himself.
Unbelievable. Excellent. Well, that's the kind of stuff that documentaries are very interesting about. Now, Caleb, you're joining us on a very special day, actually, because what would award season be without the Reelsies? Well, hopefully we'll find out next year. But until then, we are pleased to announce once again the 41st annual Reelsie Awards, the most prestigious event in cinema since last year's Reelsie Awards. And here to present our first Reelsie of the night is Mr. Big Ben Haslar.
Thank you. It has come to our attention that the film industry is actually still creating movies today, available at your local cinema, which is weird because I thought Ice Cube kind of killed it after that War of the Worlds thing. And in the spirit of those sad, optimistic sacks, we offer our pity category for Best New Film of 2025. Your nominees are Bring Her Back by Danny and Michael Philippou, Ephus by Carson Lund,
I hear people clapping. You don't have to say that.
Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro, and Lost in Starlight by Han Ji-won. And the not bitter. And the winner is Lost in. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. It is Bring Her Back.
I can't believe you guys picked that one. Good for me. Good for me. I know. I really thought it was going to be Frankenstein.
That's what happens when it's a ranked choice thing. And Sinners, we're not even nominated for a reason.
Oh, I didn't see Sinners until after I picked Bring Her Back, and then I thought about pivoting, but then I didn't. I know. Anyway, Ben, what kind of recommendation have you got?
For my continuation of my Walk-Emendations, A Journey into Chinese Cinema actually has some similar beats to Whiplash in that it focuses on competition for a prize position and a constant feeling of thinking that you're there only to have the rug pulled out from beneath you. It is 1991's Raise the Red Lantern. Directed by the visionary Zhang Yimou, before he would later take on Hero in House of Flying Daggers and Shadow. You see how well his eye for lines, light, and color was being developed. Every time I watch a film of his, I'm always just floored by the way it looks. The story taking place over a century ago centers on a poor former student who, after her father's death, is pressured to become the fourth wife of a wealthy man, but after accepting her fate and performing her wifely duties, as it were, finds that the rich man, whose face we never completely see, seems to enjoy pitting his wives against one another in a competition where he is the sole benefactor, because his whole estate is arranged like a compound, which each wife is sort of in a separate villa, something I think Elon Musk is modeling his Texas compound after, where his girlfriends can and children can then live. Whichever wife he chooses to spend the night with gets foot massages and exorbitant meals and other luxuries, like just having the status of being the current favorite, a competition our protagonist, the youngest and prettiest, thinks she has in the bag until she doesn't. It's sickening, but the film portrays it in that very male fantasy kind of way where it's like kind of downplayed. The master has concocted it that this is ultimately unsustainable, but him being rich and powerful, he won't feel the pain that the wives who fall into this trap working against one another will feel. And I don't want to spoil the end, but it is emotional, beautiful, every shot feels nearly flawless, and we would expect nothing less of Zhang Yimou, with themes examining the value of youth and beauty as currency.
My favorite Red Lantern is Dexstar. He's a cat. Now, on to our next Reelsie. Here to present this category is a man with the biggest heart I know. The doctors say it's enlarged. Mr. Dylan J. Schlender.
Thank you. Hans Christian Andersen said, "Where words fail, music speaks." And when music fails, we have tonight's nominees for Best Musical Opening or Closing. The nominees are Into the Courtroom, Big Ben Haslar, from The People vs. Frozen 2.
Boo, Reelsie bait.
Shyamalan. Am I saying that right?
No.
M. Night Shyamalan?
That's his name.
Is it just Shyamalan?
Yes.
That's
how he spells the name.
All right. Shyamalan. Daniel Scribner. The People vs. Glass.
Suck up.
Rad World. Maynard Bangs. The People vs. Rad.
Yeah!
Yesterday Has Caused Us Great Pain. Philip Matas. The People vs. Yesterday.
Mid.
And the winner is Philip Matas to Yesterday Has Caused Us Great Pain.
Oh, come on. He used to guitar. Cheating.
I know him. I know him.
Well, if it makes you feel better, Maynard, I voted for you.
It doesn't make me feel better.
I didn't.
This is Philip Matas' first Reelsie nomination and first win for Best Musical Opening or Closing.
Hello, Reels of Justice, and thank you very much, Reelsie Academy. It was seriously an honor just to find out I was nominated for an award I didn't know existed. I would like to thank the public library system, without whom I might have had to pay to watch Yesterday again. I'd also like to thank my manager for saying, "I'm not your manager anymore. Get out of here." And, of course, my lovely wife for saying, "No, I won't be your manager. Get out of here." You know, guys, these are dark times, but I hope that in some small way, we can find beauty in everyday, wonderful, proud things, like a barely on-key parody of a Beatles song. I really hope that for us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next year.
Schlenzo, you want to give us your recommendation?
Base Camp. Yes, sir. Yes, I certainly do. Maynard, what if I told you Pixar made a remarkably unambitious film in 2025 that slipped under the radar?
I believe you.
Or rather, slipped under the satellites, because it's about aliens, you see.
Ooh.
I know how much you love aliens, and this is Elio from 2025.
Ancient astronaut theorists.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that. But essentially what this movie is a boy is orphaned and raised by his aunt who's in the military, and she just so happens to be working at one of these NORAD kind of centers, and they just so happen to make first contact with aliens. Now, Elio, our main character, happens to be obsessed with aliens and wants to be abducted by them. They accidentally think he's Earth's leader. Hilarity ensues, but he befriends the bad guy's son, and everyone all ends up getting along. It's a little heartwarming. It's a little
This guy gives you heartworms?
Glorden. Oh, I love Glorden.
Oh, heartwarming.
No, you said heartwarming. I heard.
I know what I said, and it's pretty.
Do
funny
you?
Now, I don't know. I'm very hungry.
If only someone had been recording it.
I know, right? I only had 4 steaks today. No, I did say worming. You're right. But that's because, now you're going to feel stupid.
Okay.
The bad guys are worms, Maynard.
Damn it.
Look, like I said, remarkably unambitious for a Pixar movie, but, that's okay. Every once in a while, they have to take a couple walks, or they get hit by the ball. I'm sorry, I just watched a baseball movie. I'm getting things very mixed up. The point is, it's streaming on Disney Plus. I don't even know if it ever made it to theaters. It did. It has direct-to-video vibes.
Yeah, Red didn't?
All over it. Support your local library.
Oh, sure, Schlenzo, since I don't want to read it, why don't you go ahead and give away our very prestigious Lifetime Achievement of the Year award?
Thank you very much, Maynard. As you know,
just sitting and listening.
Caleb, he was clapping. You didn't hear him?
Yes. As you all know, we take our duties to this court very seriously. And there is no task more serious than the recommendation of justice. Every week we put our credibility on the line to bring you movies we think you should see. In that spirit, when we look back on this year, one actor, one paragon of cinematic virtue rose to the top. It is with great pleasure that I present this year's Lifetime Achievement of the Year award to our most recommended actor, Mr. Liam Neeson.
But just for 2025, though.
Yeah, no, it's a Lifetime Achievement of the Year award.
Blanchett was robbed, goddammit.
Who got robbed? Kate Blanchett? I don't know about that. I don't know if it was that close.
No, she was like 3 behind.
I know. Anyway, I guess I'll present the next award and then I'll give my recommendation. Our next category.
Here to present our next award.
Hey,
my best friend in the whole world, Maynard Bangs.
Let me go. Our next category is Worst Defendant of the Year. We each nominated a film we found guilty this year in 2025 and then voted on the worst of those. This is based on the film itself, not on the cases presented or the attorneys involved. It's strictly based on the films. So our nominees are Halloween Resurrection 2002,
Not even close.
Joker Folie à Deux 2024, that Joker 2.
Maybe,
Joker 2.
Maybe.
Suicide Squad 2016. And somehow Superman 2025.
Let's go down.
And the loser, because the winner here is really the loser, is Suicide Squad. So named for the feelings it inspired in all of us.
Very, very fair. Very fair.
Very much deserving. My recommendation today is about another toxic relationship. 2014's White Bird in a Blizzard. Told mostly through flashbacks, it follows the tense relationship between a reluctant mother and her 17-year-old daughter just prior to the mother's mysterious disappearance. Now, this is absolutely not my kind of movie at all, and based on its scores, it may not be anyone else's kind of movie either. I only watched it because it starred Ava Green, and the fact that it comes alphabetically after Whiplash is pure coincidence. And while Green puts on a strong enough performance as the mother who vanishes, well, you can see how that reduces her role in the picture some. Unfortunately, the rest is left up to Shailene Woodley as the daughter, whose character is written as outwardly unaffected by the disappearance. And indifference rarely leaves much room for an interesting performance. Christopher Maloney does what he can to carry the rest. Thomas Jane appears in a minor role. But for a film based on a book...
David Duchovny?
No. But for a film based on a book, which was in turn based on nothing concrete, it's a fictional novel, it sure didn't take many big chances. Things sort of play out as you would expect, and there's no real big reveal or cathartic moment. In fact, most of the critical information is given to you in an epilogue-style exposition at the end. I was kind of like, that's it? I wasn't even that invested, and I was still disappointed. The film may be so grounded in reality that it's just plain old boring to watch, and I suggest if you want to see Green and Maloney work together, they do so better in that year's Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. However, for Green Maloney completionists, if any, you can check out White Bird in a Blizzard streaming on something called Philo, likely Philo commercials. You like
dough? That
what?
Philo dough.
I'm not sure.
No,
I've never heard of it. I thought it was a philosophy thing, very possible. But anyway, here to present our last category is a man who is personally blackmailing us all for a stable paycheck, Mr. Grumbly Grumblerson. Boo.
Our last category is Best Defendant of the Year. This is our favorite not guilty films of 2025, and when we consider them okay enough to be named Best. And here the nominees are Amadeus, 1984, Too Long Ago. Hulk, 2003, underrated. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, title's too long, 2003. And of course that piece of shit Pootie Tang from 2001.
Sarate, my brother, Sarate.
Pootie Tang.
And the Reelsie for the Best Defendant of the Year goes to fucking Amadeus.
Amadeus.
I'm sure it was close, Maynard. I'm sure it was close.
Accepting the award on behalf of Amadeus is an extremely bitter Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig! Oh, Ludwig! It seems he's so bitter he's refusing to come up to accept the award. Oh, well. And that concludes...
I'm cutting it off. That's it. That concludes the entirely pointless exercise of the 41st Annual Reelsie Awards. It was not George Takei. I couldn't afford him. But anyway, we do want, that is all the time. We are all at a show, but we do want to thank our... What?
I didn't get to recommend nothing.
Ryan, please give me a recommendation. Forgot all about that.
You should have done the middle one.
You're right. That's why you should have gone in the middle. You confused it all.
Yes, I'm the one who didn't write it, so therefore I confused it.
That's exactly. Ryan, I want your recommendation, please.
My Hecko Trucko recommendation this week is my favorite theatrical experience in years, Matt Johnson's Nirvana the Band, the Show, the Movie. It follows two wannabe musicians whose main ambition is to perform at the Rivoli, which is an ultra-hip Toronto club where the Kids in the Hall were first found, and their wacky misadventures that they undergo in their pursuit. I don't want to tell you what happens after the first 15 minutes other than the fact that it takes place in 2008 and 2025, because I want you to go in blind like I did, and I would be amazed if this didn't turn out to be my hundreds of beavers for 2026. Just being surrounded by strangers, getting every joke, and getting rowdy every time something unexpected happened, which is frequently, it was amazing. My only prior experience with Matt Johnson, who also co-wrote and co-stars as himself, was through another of my Hecko Bendations, Blackberry, so clearly I have a rabbit hole to go down on YouTube. Nirvana the Band, the Show, the Movie is leaving theaters as of this recording, but it's a neon release, so it'll likely be dumped unceremoniously on Hulu pretty soon.
Hulu. It's a great title.
That's the third recommendation I've heard for that film in the past 4 days.
Wow.
You talked to
Not 4 for
Smarty
4,
Pie.
though. If it were 4 for 4, that'd be impressive.
It's a hot movie.
I know. There you go. Well, I'll probably have to watch that one, but I mean, if you're going to nominate it, I can watch it next year for the Reelsies. So might as well save
I hear
myself
they
some
retcon
time.
the way Kurt Cobain dies, though, so I don't know.
Nope,
He
not even
lied.
close
He
the
did
same
have a
rate.
gun. That liar. He lied to us through song. I hate when people do
I
that.
hate when they do that.
But with that, we are all out of show for real this time. But we want to thank our guest, Caleb Zakarin. Thanks for coming back again.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to make sure we have you back, along with several authors as well.
It won't be for a
you'll
Realsies one, though. You won't have to sit through that.
Well, maybe. You know.
might
You had
be.
fun. He was clapping. He's wearing the tuxedo. I saw him doing the thing where he stops and takes pictures. What's the Ryan? What's
I
it called?
tell you what, he killed the champagne, though. I only got 3 bottles.
That is true, but it was worth it. But we're going to have you back. We hope everyone else will join us again then as well, as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Tenure.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.